What is going on, everybody? My name is Max. On this YouTube channel, I cover everything from 3D printing to real estate and podcasting, of which I have all three businesses. I've been in real estate for just about a year. I've had a 3D printing company for around 3 years, and I have had a podcast for almost 2 years. Now, podcasting is my passion project, and 3D printing and real estate is how I make my money. But today we're going to cover how I created my podcast on a budget and with an email. So I started my podcast, Knowledge is Power, in April of 2021. So I guess it's been over 2 years, which is crazy to say. Podcasting for me obviously is a potential source of revenue, but I never looked at it like that. You can obviously get revenue with podcasting through advertising, and it's just not something I have explored in great detail. And let me explain to you what I did to start the podcast. So this mic I'm actually using right now, I bought on Amazon for $70, and I bought two more of them so I can have multiple people in the studio at once. And they were $70 too. These mic arms that I'm using here, this was $15, and I have 3 of those. So you do the math, it's not a lot of money. Now, in terms of the laptop or the recording software I used GarageBand on my MacBook Pro. Obviously, if you don't have a MacBook, that's an issue because that's sort of a given. A lot of people already have the laptop or a MacBook. So your barrier to entry to start a podcast, if you already have the MacBook, is relatively low. And GarageBand is a free software. And in order to get several mics with different inputs on your MacBook, you just set up something simple called an Audio MDI. And you can see that as I'm playing some screenshots or video recordings of that process as I'm talking about it. In terms of the podcast getting posted and distributed, I use a website called RSS. RSS, I guess, is a pretty popular podcasting platform, and it distributes your podcast to all the other different types of platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all the other like Pandora, Stitcher, TuneIn, and whatnot. And you have to pay. I mean, you don't have to pay, but if you want to schedule the podcast, that is a premium feature and is something that is very convenient if you're coming out with multiple videos or podcasts and you would like to schedule once a week or a couple weeks or once a month. And it's really easy to do. It's $13 a month. So that, again, is relatively cheap. So, yeah. Now, the hardest part to starting a podcast is not the equipment, it's not the recording, it's the content. Coming up with something people want to listen to and learn from. Now, for me, I guess that came easy because I didn't come at it as, oh, how can I make money? It was, oh, how can I share people's life stories to help inspire others to make their lives better and the people around them better as well. So for me, I think me progressing as a podcast host has helped as well. I have had on a plethora of different local business owners in Rhode Island and a lot of people from all over the country who have been in business themselves or gotten to the industry they're currently in bootstrapped and with just incredibly hard work. In the podcast, I guess you could look at it from a multiple different scenarios or aspects on what it's about. For me, it's always been about that, hearing people's life experiences and gaining knowledge from their mistakes and their advice. Every podcast ends with a very simple question. If you were to leave one piece of advice to the listener, what would that piece of advice be? And I've heard a lot of great advice. And a lot of times, what's funny is they'll say the advice, and I'll be like, oh, that's really great advice. And it'll take me a while to process how I can apply that to my life, or how something has already happened in my life that I think about. You know what I mean? Some of them are really simple but powerful. One that stuck with me is Never Stop Learning by Steve DeAngelis. Really, really simple quote. Really, really simple piece of advice. I guess the piece of advice that I always find the most interesting is not the long, drawn-out one. It's the short one that can be interpreted in any different aspect of your life, not one that is directly correlated to one portion of your life. You know, having that piece of advice that you can help apply to different facets of your life is a lot more beneficial than just one part of your life. And Never Stop Learning is something you can obviously apply to a lot of different aspects of your life. So you have your mics, you have your mic arm, you have your way to record on a MacBook Pro, you have the content. Now, when it comes to advertisers, like I've said, I've had a very limited amount of advertising on my podcast. There has been a couple, but in the grand schemes of things, I've made $600-700 on advertising in 2 years, which obviously is not a lot of money over 2 years. But RSS is coming out with a sort of auto advertising feature. And the great thing about RSS is that it's unlike, I think, the other platform that Spotify uses is like Anchor or something like that, and it's a platform where you're basically exclusive to Spotify, and they control your ads, and you have very little control over your podcast. RSS is very much more of a free reign, post what you want, obviously within reason. Every podcasting platform has those, agreements where you can't have, I guess, what they call hate speech and things like that. But in terms of your advertisers and whatnot, it's totally up to you. There is a great website called Podcorn, I think it's called, that will help you connect with advertisers. And there's another one that will try to help you connect with guests as well. But I've always found my guests from my email. Something that a lot of people don't realize is, how do you get in touch with these people? Is I just find their email. A lot of times I've had on business owners that I've already known, or YouTubers that I've had on. I've simply gone to their about page, found their email, and sent them an email. And if they don't respond within a week or two, I'll send them another one until they respond, you know? It's been a dream of mine to have on somebody called Les Stroud, who has a show, Survivor Man, and I absolutely love his work in that show. I remember when I was a little kid, my dad and I sitting down and watching that show. So if there's any chance that Les Stroud sees this video, I've been emailing his team for a year and a half now, trying to get him on my podcast. And if it's the last podcast I ever do, I will be completely content with that. And just to hear the lessons he's learned in his life, because he's been everywhere, would be absolutely incredible, an absolutely incredible conversation. A couple YouTubers that I've had on in the 3D printing sphere on my podcast, which is really great because I get to learn more about my industry, and I get to add content to my podcast in 3D printing. I've had on Frankly Built, who has, I believe he's at 1 million, if not over 1 million subscribers. And at the time I had him on, he still had 300,000 subscribers. So congratulations to him and the massive leap of success. And 3D Printer Academy, who I had on when he had 20, 30,000 subscribers, and now he's at a few 100,000. So congratulations to Steven as well. Two incredibly knowledgeable 3D printer YouTubers who I love watching their videos. Steven has some really, really, really great educational videos about physics, and he's came up with some really great ideas. And a plug for Steven right here. This is his book that he wrote. 3D Printing for Everyone is an absolutely amazing book. You have everything from how to 3D print to how to design in Fusion 360, which is a great software for CAD. yeah, so I got a little off topic there. I guess this is more like a podcast setup anyways. So that's how I started my podcast, on a budget. I bought mics on Amazon. I had a MacBook Pro already, and right now I'm recording this on my phone, and I have this. This is a USB mic too, so you have this great setup. You can use the USBs, or you can use, I don't know what this high quality output is, but the audio would be a lot better. I guess it would be deeper, less tinnier if you had that thicker wire. And they came with them. They came with the USB and this, but I just didn't have the setup for that. So I hope you learned something in today's video, and I hope you were slightly inspired to go start your own podcast and take your shot, because you'll never know if you'll be successful or not if you don't try. So thanks for tuning into the channel today, guys. And if you have any other questions or video ideas you'd like me to do, feel free to comment below and let me know. Thanks, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.